welcome back to the channel, your number one source for income-oriented investing. So, just like the title of this video says, I decided that for my RRSP account, I will go all in QDTE, the Innovation 100 Covered Call Strategy ETF, which is basically the NASDAQ 100 with covered calls with using a daily strategy, and this one has weekly distribution. So I wanted to release this video one day before my portfolio unveil because, you know, to my opinion, it's not really a big move what I did, but some of you may consider it a big move. So let me just go through my reasoning behind this move in detail because I'm sure you guys will have a bunch of questions. So first of all, why did I decide? What exactly did I do? Well, basically in my RSP account, I had QQQT. That was my core NASDAQ position. And as a smaller secondary position, I had YMAX. So I decided just to merge both of those into QDTE, which is basically the core NASDAQ position in my wife's RSP account and Erica's RSP account, right? So why did I decide to do that? Well, for a couple of reasons. I actually wrote them down, so I'll make sure that I don't forget anything. So first of all, let's actually look at what QDTE is. So QDTE is basically the NASDAQ 100 with covered calls using a daily strategy. It's a daily covered call strategy. Expense ratio, MER, is 95 basis points. And the main reason why is simply because I've been really impressed with its performance. That's number one. Number two, I kind of really like the weekly compounding. Remember, my RSPs are on drip, so getting weekly compounding, weekly dollar cost averaging compared to monthly could be a benefit, especially if there's zigzags with the NASDAQ within the month, right? So I hope you guys know what I'm talking about here. So let's say within a certain week, the NASDAQ is really, really bad or goes down for a couple of days, but then it recovers a week later, 2 weeks later at its normal point. When your drip goes through on one of those monthly dividends, you're not really dollar cost averaging your dollar cost averaging every month instead of every week. So if you're having weekly compounding, weekly dripping, which means you're buying more shares every, I think it's Friday or Thursday, the ex-dividend date on this one, there's more of a chance where you'll catch it down, which means you could capitalize on that and dollar cost average. So I hope that makes sense. I really like the idea of the weekly compounding, but the main reason is really the performance. So when it comes to performance, let's just do a quick comparison to another 5 other NASDAQ 100 covered call ETF. So first of all, of course, we're going to compare it to QQQT. So QQQT, I really like the strategy. It's basically SPY-T, but the NASDAQ version. Target of 20% yield. So the first thing I will notice right away is that the management fee is 10 basis points higher than QDTE. And this is simply because they're really getting the exposure by holding QQQ, which has a fee. So they have to pay the fee, right? So it is 10 basis points higher. But if we look at the actual performance, and this is what I find pretty interesting. So it's pretty close. It's, you know, obviously these are all NASDAQ, so the graphs are all gonna look very similar, the same. But I was surprised because I still think this is the case. I still think QQQT captures more upside if the NASDAQ goes up. But I noticed that QDTE on the upside is no slouch either. If you look at the upside here, it's doing really well. It's doing fine. It's actually a little outperforming QQQT right now. It's not really a good comparison because QQQT came out June 21st, so we barely have 3 months. We don't even have 3 months of comparison, but it's held up really well on the upside, which I really, really like. If we do other comparisons, so let's compare it, for example, to QQQY, which is the first ever daily strategy. If we compare it to QQQY, which I feel is probably its main competitor, it's doing really well as well. It's outperforming QQQY. Not by a super big margin. You could see that they were neck and neck at a certain point, but it seems to me, you know, at some point QQQY was beating it as well at the beginning. But of course, these are going to be close because the strategies are very similar anyway. But still, just to say that it is outperforming QQQY. If we do it versus another one like IQQQ. So in terms of the daily options ones, I think the Pro shares, so they have IQQQ for the NASDAQ, but they have iSpy for the S&P 500. Those, for me, are kind of like the basic or the benchmark for the daily strategy. So the yields are really not that high on these ones, on the Pro shares one. The fee is what's really impressive at only 55 basis points. So for sure, by far the pro shares daily ones, IQQQ, and also the S&P one, which also has a 55 basis point fee, by the way. Those are really the benchmark for the daily ones, in my opinion. These are more the basic ones. They're very far out of the money. So you are, even though this is a daily strategy, I think the pro shares ones really capture a lot of upside of the respective indexes. So if we compare them, if we compare QDTE versus IQQQ, you see that it is outperforming IQQQ. Now, of course, IQQQ came out in March, so we have a little bit more data than if we were comparing it to June, but still doing really well. It's very, very surprising, although IQQQ, you see at one point here, was beating QDTE, especially on the upside. This doesn't surprise me. I feel like QDTE will capture less upside than IQQQ, but again, I'm impressed on how much upside it's really capturing. You see that in the last big upswing here very recently, it's actually captured a little bit more upside than IQQQ. So I'm very, very impressed, guys. That's really what I have to say. Am I super impressed? No, because obviously they're very, very close. But what about a more traditional monthly covered call NASDAQ strategy? So for me, the benchmark that I use, it used to be JEPQ, but JEPQ is not exactly the NASDAQ 100. It's going to be GPIC. So for me, if you want to compare, if you want to have a benchmark or a golden standard for a standard monthly classic Coke monthly covered call strategy managed by a big player, very consistent, that's actually the index, it's going to be GPICs for the S&P 500 and GPIC with a Q for the NASDAQ 100. So this one's been around for a little bit longer. So we'll have GPIC came out before QDT, so we'll have the real comparison. And again, guys, I'm shocked to see QDTE outperforming GPIC, not by a lot, but it's definitely holding its own. It's really capturing about the same amount of upside as well. Very impressive. What about QQQI? This one's very, very popular. It's from NEOS. Very, very consistent, 14-15% yield. They're really known for consistency. 68 basis points. This one is 29 basis points, by the way. So even though QDTE has higher fee than most of these here, especially GPIC, we see that it's beating it. What about the NASDAQ one? The NEOS one. It's outperforming the NEOS one as well by a little bit as well here. Again, very, very impressive. So obviously performance, which it hasn't been out for a long time, but it's held its own, and you could kind of see the trend. I'm very impressed with the performance of QDTE, considering it has such high yield. It's been having really nice big monthly dividends lately. I don't know exactly why they were able to increase them so much compared to the 30s and sometimes 20 cents in the last couple of weeks. Maybe they're learning, they're getting better at the strategy. So performance is definitely what I like better. I like very much. Lower fee, right? 10%, 10 basis points less than QQQT. And I really am a fan of the weekly distributions. I think that's what is making a difference. Maybe the weekly compounding. Remember that these returns that I'm showing you are simulating with dividends reinvested, which is what I'm doing with the drip. So I think maybe over time, there is really something to this weekly compounding. And another major thing, and I didn't touch YMAX yet. Compared to YMAX, I'm sticking with more the NASDAQ one, the NASDAQ Covered Call ETFs. I've been impressed on how much upside QDTE captures compared to its peers. So I think maybe over time, QQQT, if the NASDAQ keeps going up and up and up, or it goes up more sharply, I think maybe QQQT will start outperforming it. But either way, it's beating everyone right now. And I think, and this is I checked this a day or 2 days ago, QDTE was actually outperforming the Qs itself, QQQ. It's no longer the case today. You could really see where they start separating. Obviously, this is QQQ is the pure index form. It's really on the upside. When there's sharp, long upside, that's when a covered call strategy will always underperform. But it's held its own. It's really held its own. You see the difference is very, very minuscule. And we have about 6 months of data here, maybe 5 months of data here. So I don't expect QDTE to beat QQQ over the long run, but 2 days ago I checked and it was actually outperforming QQQ. So very impressed with the performance and all the other reasons. So that's really why I went I swap my QQQT into QDT. What about YMAX? Why did I exchange my YMAX, just go all in and swap my YMAX into it as well? Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the YMAX fee is higher because they're charging an extra 29 basis points on top of the other yield max fund. So it's 1.28. So it's literally 33 basis points more, 33 basis points higher than QDTE. Again, weekly distributions. YMAX has monthly distributions. Performance, definitely performance is a factor as well. If we just do YMAX versus QDTE, it's beating it pretty significantly, I would say. Another thing, I'm really starting to like index style ETFs versus equal weight or stock picking. So YMAX is equal weight, right? It's an equal weight of a bunch of the yield max ETFs, and as the new ones come out, they're all going to be equal weight. So I'm starting to prefer, from what I could see, guys, in my experience, the index-based or index style always beat a fund that has similar stocks or the same stocks that's equal weight or stock picking, right? Or actively managed or stock picking. Another thing is that YMAX is kind of almost a NASDAQ 100. There's a lot of the same stocks in here. Yes, there's the Bitcoin and MicroStrategy is equal weight here, and there's the gold producers. And over time, I'm sure YieldMax is going to come out with more and more and more. Alibaba was just, added in the YieldMax universe. Airbnb. So I'm sure, as YMAX grows, it's going to have more and more stocks. It's kind of going to be like an index, hold a lot of the same NASDAQ stocks. So that's another reason as well. But very impressed with Roundhill, guys. And even, by the way, their S&P 500 one, XDTE. I wanted to show you this because I found it interesting. If we compare XDTE versus SPY-T, it's outperforming SPY-T, which is very impressive. If we do the regular monthly covered call ETF golden standard, which I will use GPIX as, if we just compare it to GPIX, JEPI is underperforming GPIX by a lot, so we'll use GPIX. It's beating GPIX as well. What about the ProShares one? ProShares one is iSpy, right? If we compare XDTE to iSpy, I believe it's outperforming iSpy. It is outperforming iSpy a little bit. At one point, iSpy was doing better. As you could see, like I suspect, when there's a long upside, when there's a long bull run, iSpy is probably going to outperform because it does less covered calls, if what it looks like, right? But needless to say, the XDT, QDTE, I think they're having a Russell one that's going to come out shortly. Very impressive of what's going on and its performance. I like the weekly distributions as well. So hopefully that answers your question of why I went all in on it. I just like seeing those weekly distributions. It's going to be fun. So tomorrow you'll see actually how much I have of QDT in my RSP, how many shares, what my income is going to be, et cetera, et cetera. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. And just remember, guys, whichever one you're choosing or whichever combination, maybe you'll choose more than one. Whether it's QDTE, QQQT, QQQY, IQQQ, GPIX, QQQI, it's not going to be a crazy, I believe, difference in terms of performance. Remember, we're all investing in the NASDAQ 100. There's no right or wrong. There's no which one is the best. Just choose the one that's best for you. I know many of you copy my moves. That's completely fine, but you have to understand the fund. The key to understanding the differences between these is how much upside are you giving up? How much upside are you willing to sacrifice? Do you want more, less? Are you okay with less upside to get a lot more yield, right? Or you want you're okay with a little bit of yield to get more upside. So there's no right or wrong on which one you choose. I personally, so far, I'm going with QDT, and we'll see what happens. Maybe leverage ones will start coming out. I approached the CEO of Roundhill. I encouraged them several times to think about maybe a leverage version of these. They're thinking about it. Maybe that leverage from direction ETFs, JEPI and JEPQ, maybe you're going to come out. Still waiting for that one. So I'm not saying I'm just going to stick with QDTE forever. If there's a better option, like I discussed in my in Wednesday's video, right, about making changes and switching around, I'm always going to go with the fund that I feel is just the best for me and that I like personally. So everyone should be doing that. So hopefully this video was informative. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and stay tuned for tomorrow for the main portfolio unveil as usual. And I just wanted to show you this. I've been seeing a lot of I guess other finfluencers kind of making similar videos and thinking the same thing, that they're getting out of YieldMax, going into QDTE, XDTE, why QDT is my go-to, ditch yield max here, going all in. Round Hill is my new, QDT is my new go-to fund. So obviously, people are, I do have the idea here. Other people are thinking the same thing as well. I just wanted to show you that. I thought it was cool. So anyway, see you next time, everyone. Hey, don't go yet. A few reminders before you leave. Did you know that I launched a YouTube loyalty membership program where for only $3 a month, you could become a PII Inner Circle member, where you will gain access to exclusive content, exclusive videos and live streams, as well as other perks and benefits, including a really cool weekly opportunity report. That's right. If you're interested, just click on the little join button next to the subscribe button to see what it's all about. Also, make sure to follow me on Blossom and download Blossom. It's a social investing app, which is really cool. You could share your portfolio, follow other people's portfolios, including my own. My username is Adrian_PII. So download it with the referral link below. Not only is it free, but you could actually earn cash by taking these really small, quick 1-minute courses. Really awesome. It's a no-brainer. Also, make sure to visit our website, passiveincomeinvesting.ca. That's where you could book a one-on-one private coaching session with yours truly, with myself, where you could ask me all the questions you want. All the information and booking information is on the website. Make sure to check out that video on the homepage there to see how to book a one-on-one properly. Also on my website, you could purchase my digital product, which I'm very proud of, the ultimate DIY investing package. This is a reference tool or a companion tool that will help you build your own portfolio. So it has lists of funds, it has sample portfolios, and it covers both the Canadian and U.S. stock markets. And the good news is you'll only ever have to buy it once, because it comes with free lifetime updates. And my plan is really to update the version every single year. So make sure to pick it up. Also, I have Questrade and Passive referral links below. So Questrade is the broker that I personally use, and Passive is the broker companion tool or assistant that I use. Really cool program, really cool software. So I have referral links for both of those. Questrade, $50 of free trades. And Passive, I have half off for the elite membership. If you're interested in the elite membership, and even if you want to start out with the free membership and upgrade to the elite afterwards, use my referral code so you could still get that 50% off. And don't forget that the elite membership of Passive is 100% free if you use Questrade. For social media, we have a very successful and big Facebook group, private Facebook group with over 14,000 members, where we all try to help each other out. So make sure to join that group. Information is below. We also have Instagram, where you could follow us, or more personal stuff when it comes to our life here in Panama. And there's LinkedIn as well. So as usual, everyone, how do I leave you? Continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, stay passive. See you next time.